If you're looking for the best IEMs at each price range, here are the top 5 at each price range as of May 2026. Starting with the Budget Kings, these are going to be around $25 and sales are going to be included for each price category. And if you want an all-rounder, I think the Moondrop Chew 2, the non-DSP version, the cheaper version, is still a very good all-rounder that does every library very well. It's smooth enough, it has good technicalities for the price. The only real nitpick would be the nozzle condensation issue, some QC from Moondrop, but overall, if you want a good all-rounder, these are still very good in 2026. These aren't in any specific order, but if you're looking for a more vocal centric, more pop in the mid-range, good clarity with the instruments, my pick here would be the 1R2s as well as the SIMGOT EW100Ps. The main difference here is that the accessories, the cables, the tips are going to be better on the 1R2, and the EW100 has a slightly better clarity and detail when it comes to vocals, but at the cost of worse accessories. Next, if you want a more balanced, cleaner sound, more neutral leaning, pretty smooth in the treble, great technical performance for the price, we have the Tangent Bunny and the Zero Ultimas. The 3.5 version is going to have a little bit more mid bass. The DSP version has better variety, versatility with the EQ setting in the app, but both of these are very good. I personally like the Zero Ultimas a little bit more because of the fit. Performance wise, they're relatively the same and very good if you want a clean and more neutral leaning set. Then after those, if you're looking for a more bassy presentation, more sub bass rumble, more deepness, impact in the low end, I would go with the KZ Duonic Bass Edition. These have a lot of tuning variety with these switches, and the overall performance, smoothness in the treble is also well balanced with the amount of bass. So overall, a more dynamic and fun set versus something cleaner like the Bunnies. Then lastly, if you want a warmer, bassier sound, more emphasis in the mid bass, less focus on the sub bass versus the Duonics, these would be the 1R2 Bass or the Red Lion Edition. This is basically a better version of the 7Hz Clinical 02s, and it comes with better accessories, better tips, and yeah, they're just very enjoyable if you want that warm low end with like a good impact and smoothness in the highs as well. Now, as for some honorable mentions, I have the GK Content here, which is basically the 02s, but for like $5 on sale. Sounds very similar, performance very similar, might not look as good, QC might not be as good, but under $20 they're relatively the same. After those, we have the KZ EDC Pro, which is basically the warmer, bassier version of the 02s, and you can get these for like $2 on sale. So value wise, again, very, very good. Only reason why it's here is because some of the QC on this is not that great. So yeah, but that aside, very good value. Now lastly, if you're a bass set, you want that quantity, you want the slam, you want the impact, get the KB or Ross Finch. Still one of the best bass headsets under $20. Moving on, we have the budget endgame IEMs, which are around $60 with sale included. And off the bat, my number one pick here would be the EW300 from SIMGOT. These punch way above its price when it comes to technicalities. You're looking at around like $150, $100 in terms of pure technical performance, and you also get the tuning nozzles, warmer, more balanced. The treble might be a bit harsh to some people, but these are a very good bassy all-rounder, and they have the performance to back it up. After those, if you want a slightly more V-shaped IEM, slightly more energetic, I have the 7Hz Alua Ultra next. This is a very fun, dynamic set, also pretty good when it comes to the technical performance. They're basically a mini version of the Defiance at a quarter of the price. So value-wise, these are very good if you want a slight V-shaped sound. Next, if you want a cleaner, more balanced tonality, more vocal-centric, very good for female vocals, I would recommend the Clean SV with the black nozzles. Very good performance, clean. Obviously, it's not going to be very bassy or super V-shape in your face, but if you're looking for something more neutral, these are very good when it comes to performance. And speaking of performance, I got the RD-T10s next. These are still one of the best value you can get under $100. Very good technical performance. I would say slightly better than the EW300 even, but the timbre might not be as good because of the planar sizzle. Overall, slightly more brighter leaning than the EW300, but when it comes to pure technical value you are getting, these are very good. And lastly, if you want something more vocal centric, clean, smooth, very good scaling, give the KZ ZNF a shot. I know some of the QC on the KZ stuff is pretty bad, but these have been pretty great so far. No major QC issues, very smooth in the treble. The DD they're using is very high quality for the price. Performance also very good. Now, when it comes to the honorable mention, if you want something neutral but still have the versatility for a slightly warm leaning balanced sound, the Tangent for You is also still very good. Might not be as technical as the SVs, but they are still pretty smooth, arguably smoother than the clean SVs, but at the cost of slight technical performance. But if you want to try something more different, give the KZ Vibe X a shot. These are using, they call it the vibrational drivers, but they're basically a bone conduction driver. They are well implemented. You hear the timbre of the bounce, the echo, the vibration in the low end pretty well. It's basically the Zenith, but with like a vibrational timbre to the low end. And it's slightly more detailed than the Zenith, not as smooth overall, but if you want something that focuses more on that low end vibration, give these a shot. And speaking of unique, the Tongzu Yuquan is very good in the treble. It's airy, it's smooth, it looks very bad on the graph with the triple peak, but you don't hear it too much. It's the AK coupler, very airy. Give these a shot if you want like a clean, neutral leaning but airy sound. And then lastly, for the bass heads out there, give the Clinical Zero Bluetooths a shot with the ohm adapter. They sound like a mini HBB punch, but less refined and less technical. Next, moving up to around $100, we got the SIMGA EM6L. These are a slight bright leaning sound with a full but very smooth presentation. Very good when it comes to EQ because of the smoothness in the treble. And value wise, performance wise, these are very good. They punch well above its price, especially if you use EQ. I think these are a no-brainer. They are slightly bright leaning, but overall I think these are very good when it comes to the value. And speaking of value, we got the SIMGA EA500LM next. These are very similar when it comes to the performance as the EM6L, but they are $20 cheaper, and the trade-off is that the treble is not as refined and smooth as the EM6L. They're a bit more like sparkly, sharper in the transients. Doesn't EQ as well as the EM6L, but they are cheaper. And overall value wise, if you're looking for a slightly brighter leaning all-rounder, these are still fantastic. However, if you're looking for something less bright with better low end, better slam, better rumble, better bass texture, give the CCA Hydro a shot. These are more dynamic, but still very good as a bassy all-rounder, more focused in the sub bass, but still well controlled and still refined and detailed in the treble. Overall, very good for under $100. Then after those, we got the Tangent Fission next. These are very good for a neutral, balanced, very smooth kind of sound. They use the same driver as the Origin, which is like $250. And value wise, they have a lot of tuning variety. Performance are pretty good as well, not as technical as the EA500LM, but very smooth and very good if you want something more neutral and less, I guess, like colored. And then lastly, if you're looking for a planar, give the Nice Hack F1 Pros a shot. These are very good as an all-rounder, slightly bright leaning. They are a slightly detailed version of the T10s with better build, better packaging, cable, slightly more expensive at around like $70, $80 on sale. I've seen them go as low as 60, but I don't know how like normal that is. So overall, like expect around like $70-$80 for a slightly better version of the T10s. Now moving on to the honorable mentions, we have a lot here, so I'm just gonna speed run through them. If you're looking for a high volume scaling set, dark leaning, smooth, non-fatiguing, good bass, give the Full Explorer a shot. No introduction needed for these. And if you want a warmer but still airy kind of sound, kind of reminds me of the Symphonia Meter, very good in the mid bass, warm, airy. These would be the RDT10 Pros. And if you want a warm sound but better balance, better vocals, less, I guess, like just low end focus, more balance but still warm, these would be the QBR's Aerosos. And if you want a slightly V-shape, all-rounder, sharper in the transients, can't get a little bit sharp, pretty, hit or miss when it comes to QC, which is why it's here. Give the Juicier Defiant a shot. And then lastly, my personal favorite when it comes to male vocals would be the Hydas MK12 with the red nozzles. These are fantastic, higher volume male vocal scaling set. Moving on, at around $200, if you want the best bang for your buck, these of course would still be the Giz Audio Chopin, the SIMGA Super Mix 4, and the Truthier Nova when it comes to being an all-rounder that's very technical but still engaging in the overall sound. And as a side grade to those, if you want a smoother, more non-fatiguing listen, still an all-rounder but just like more relaxing in the treble, give the Cranier Daybreaks and the P50s a shot. You're basically trading off the technicalities and the slight musicality for a more safer and more relaxing, non-fatiguing sound. After those, if you want the most musically engaging, better dynamics, better bass texture, more vibrancy, more color, just overall more immersion into the sound, give the original Odysseys and the Lecture Australis a shot. Both are bassy all-rounders with good scaling, but the main difference here is that the Odysseys have a more even distribution in the mid bass and the low end. It has a more leaner glide when it comes to the bass, whereas the Australis is more sub-bass focused. You have a more V-shaped, slightly more V-shaped sound on the Australis, but both are very fun, very engaging, very musical and they're probably my favorite under $200. But if you want a warmer all-rounder, you know, smoother in the treble, more mid-bass centric, give these 7Hz helmets to a shot in the smaller silver nozzle configuration. It has a lot of variety with the nozzle switches, one of the most natural planars I've heard in a while, still good technical performance. Then if you're looking for something cleaner, bright leaning, you know, more neutral, give the EPZ P40s a shot. These are basically a more technical version of the EM6Ls, very smooth in the treble, equally as good when it comes to EQ, but it just has better accessories and a little bit more detail now. Now, as for honorable mentions, again, we have a lot here. I'm gonna speed run through them. If you want something very good for rock, metal, indie bands, give the AAV CJ20 a shot. They are very airy, very extended in the treble, but still smooth detail, and the low end, the impact in the mid bass is also well done. And if you want something that is a little bit darker, you know, a bit like easier on the ears, smoother, give the Confine Honor a shot. They are more of a niche set, but if you're looking for something more vocal centric than the Explorer, these would be it. And then if you want something that is brighter leaning, very technical when it comes to the treble, micro details, give the Meyer CK2V a shot. These are basically a better tuned version of the Dunu Brain Damage for half the price. You also got the MP145 Pros, the Cat 4s, and the EA1000s as well if you want good sparkly female vocals. And then lastly, if you want a more neutral balanced approach, give the Curious Aether or the full Performance 5+2 a shot. They're very similar. I like the Aether a bit more because it's a bit like airier, more dynamics in the sound, and it's like $50-$60 cheaper, so yeah. Next, at around $300, if you want an all-rounder that's smooth with good sub-bass texture, give the Curious Halcyon a shot. They have the new MEMS drivers as well. They're well implemented, natural in the timbre, non-fatiguing, unless you blast them. But yeah, very good all-rounder, give those a shot. And if you're looking for an all-rounder but just with more energy, slightly more V-shape, more detail, you know, sharpness in the overall imaging, give the Curious Astro and the ZGAT Crescent a shot. Main difference here is that the Astros are going to be slightly sharper and less mid-bass centric, whereas the Crescent a little bit warmer and less, I guess, like sharp. Then after those, if you're looking for a more balanced, clean, all-rounder kind of sound, good for vocals, give the Binary EP321 a shot. These are also rocking the MEMS driver. Very good value when it comes to performance, one of the best under $300. They can get a bit sharp at higher volumes, but the overall timbre is pretty natural, pretty realistic. Just don't crank these up too much. After those, we got the ZGAT Horizons, which are the most technical IEMs under $300 on sale. They are bright leaning, all-rounder, very smooth in the treble, very detailed. They're basically a smoother, more treble focused version of the Astros and the Crescents. And then lastly, of course, you can't forget about the bassy all-rounders. You got the High 4s, you got the Estrellas, the original T Pros. If you want the most thickness, go for the T Pros. If you want like a balance between bass and treble, go for the High 4s. And if you want the most sparkly and detailed treble playback with great sub bass as well, that would be the Estrellas. As for some honorable mentions, if you want a balanced bass head IEM, very good in a low end, slight V-shaped sound, very technical for a bass head IEM, go for the Punch Audio Martellos. If you want a warmer leaning, you know, vocal centric sound that scales very good, go for the Volume S. If you want the most flat, you know, very, I guess, like inoffensive, but scales very good, very smooth, that would be the Crania Reference. And then lastly, we got the Dunu 142s, which are very similar to the Astros and the Crescent, but they're just a cheaper version of them with sharper and peakier, more fatiguing treble. So the trade-off is it's a bit cheaper, similar performance, but it's less refined. Moving on, at around $500, if you want the best bang for your buck, these would be the The Audio High 4 Mark IIs. They are on the brighter leaning side, could be potentially energetic, but I think they ride the edge of the energy very well. Very technical. You're basically paying $500 for like a kilobuck performance level IEM. So yeah, give these a shot if you're okay with like a brighter leaning, more technical sound. And if you want something that is still bright leaning but smoother, I guess more laid back, you get the ESTs, you get that airiness, go for the Nice Hack Rockies. And then if you want something more mid-range focused, still well balanced, still clean, not that bass heavy, that would be the Zen's Top Pro. Very technical. You get that slight sparkliness when it comes to the vocals, the treble. Overall, a very good value IEM still. And you also got the T Pro SE as well, which is very similar to the Top Pro. I'm going to group these together. They're basically a better all-rounded version of the Top Pro, slightly fuller when it comes to the low end, slightly less sparkly, the better all-rounder set at the cost of less mid-range and sparkliness. Then after those, we got the High Senior Makeup 5 EST7 if you want an all-rounder that's well balanced, good bass, good mid-range, good treble, does nothing wrong. And then we also have the IO Volair, which is very similar to the Mega 5 ESC7. The main difference here is that the Volair has less sub bass than the Mega 5 ESC7. You hear more of the treble, the airiness comes across a little bit smoother, but aside from that, very similar, also a great all-rounder. Now when it comes to the honorable mentions, we also got a lot here. Again, I'm gonna speed run through these. If you want a vocal centric IEM, clean, clear, very good detail, layering, slight pop, slight airiness in the vocals, these would be the EPZ 550s. To me, they replace the original The Audio Oracles. They're basically a more textured and fuller version of the Oracle Mark 1s. And then if you want something that scales better, has a little bit more bite and that, you know, goosebump and slight sizzle to the treble, give the Arcanus a shot. Still one of my favorite vocals, under $500. And the Ziga Lunas are also very good if you want a warmer, airier, you know, dreamy like sunset coloration to your sound, very musical, as well as the Symphonia Meters, which is also warm and airy, but just has a lot more quantity when it comes to the mid bass. A lot warmer, more meaty, more mid bass centric, very good for rock, drum, stuff like that. Then of course we can't forget about the HBB Punch, the endgame bass headset, in my opinion, for most people. Well balanced, smooth enough in the treble, good detail, very good bass texture. It just does everything like a bass head is looking for. And lastly, we got the Tangzu Xuanwu Gate if you want something more neutral. You know, it's basically a straight line if you look at the graph, but you still get some dynamics in the treble. It's smooth with the ESTs, very good packaging, very good build. Overall, just a very good performer for a neutral IEM. Then finally, at around $1,000, we have our endgame IEMs. And starting off, we have the IO Cielo. These follow my all-rounder endgame target very closely. They are very dynamic, contrasty, and very technical, obviously, for $1,000. And they also have the refinement to back it up. So basically, they have the perfect balance, in my opinion, between being musical, engaging enough, but also refined and not super sharp and peaky when it comes to the treble. Then after those, of course, we can't forget about the Monarch Mark 4s. These are going to be smoother than the Cielos, a bit like airier when it comes to the treble because of the ESTs. Performance wise, they're about the same. They are a little bit more versatile because of the tuning switches. You have the bassier, warmer option as well. But overall, I would say, like, if you want a smoother sound, go for the Monarch Mark 4s. But if you want a bit more energy, go for the Cielos. However, speaking of energy, you also have the Dunu Glacier, which is also very good. The vocals pop out very nicely. The sub bass texture is very good, but it is going to be sharper even than the Cielo when it comes to the upper mids. It just has more energy in that region. So if you wanted a little more energy, more, I guess, like V-shaped tuning than the Cielos, that would be the Glaciers. If you want the best balance, that would be the Cielos. And if you want the smoothest, that would be the Monarch Mark 4s. Then after those, we got the Audio Origin for our best bass textured IEM under $1,000. They have that bounciness in the bone conduction driver, but the texture, the impact, the slam is also there. The balance and then the detail performance also good in the treble in the upper mids. Basically, this is an endgame bassy all-rounder IEM, and for the price of like around $800 to $700 depending on the sale, they are very good. And then lastly, we got the Meze Astros. These are very unique in the sound. They have like a reverby prolonged to the bass notes and to the stage in general. The stage feels very wide. It has that like immersive 3D like factor to it. It has that unique sauce that a lot of you guys are looking for at that endgame price tag. Now, it is very expensive for a single DD, but the build is insane. Obviously tested through the hydraulic testing. It was still like 2-3 tons of force. So when it comes to quality, you are getting what you paid for, and the overall fit is also one of the most comfy IEMs for me personally. So because of those reasons, like the uniqueness in the staging, the reverb, and then the build quality and the fit, I think they are a very unique option under $1,000. As for some honorable mentions, if you're looking for a brighter leaning set that is like a slight V-shaped sound, the BG-VP Solomons are very good when it comes to the micro nuances, the imaging, the sharpness dynamics. On the other hand, if you want a warmer all-rounder sound, go for the Feel FX17. They are basically a better version of the Sophia Twilights. Very good for male vocals, good airiness in the extension in the treble, but you also get the warmness, the slam in the mid bass as well. Aside from that, I hope this top 5 was helpful. Let me know how you would rank each IEM and what your top pick would be for each price category, whether or not you agree with Reddit Rex pick for the top IEMs, and I will see everyone in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Special thanks to Mr. Dom Q, Zenu, B. Urak, Walker Standard, User, Skasa, Guava Juice Bane, Polly J, Mr. Gorilla, CT Jax, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, PM The Wizard, Obi, Trouble Well Extended, Matt Herc, TR8, Shembakle, FKSRG, Cousin Fat Fat, Tomat Pat for Shake, Atwell, Addy, Michael, Trackstar, Raphael, Ori, Ryan, Juniper, Effinadim, Chimika, Raj, Javir, Gelwag, Ocean, BC Knight, AK131, Emin Gelato, On Balance, Victor, Tuna, JRX, Samuel, John Simon, Archie, Forrest, Ninja Watcher, The Audio, Brennan Fish, Sir Eisen, JPLA, Partly Timed, Blue Nerd, ATGBB, Furuto, Geranium, Derek, Spinner, Samzi, Rash, Kolar, Ya Boy, Revolution, Suli, Call Me Blue, Etune, Sachin, Grizzly, Lian, No Q, Double J, Scaffrock, Jeffrey, Mark M, DR6, and CD Giri. Thank you guys so much for the support.